Most people only work when they feel like it, when motivation is high, when energy is strong, when the task feels exciting. But the moment the work becomes uncomfortable, they stop. They wait for motivation to return. They wait to feel ready. They wait for the perfect mood. And while they are waiting, nothing changes. Because the truth is brutal. The work that changes your life is almost always the work you don't feel like doing. The early mornings when your body wants sleep. The training when your muscles want rest. The studying when your mind wants distraction. The discipline when comfort calls louder. This is where most people quit. But a small group of people learn something powerful. They stop negotiating with their emotions. They stop waiting for motivation. They train themselves to act anyway. They learn to do what they hate, until the results become impossible to ignore. This audiobook is about that discipline. The discipline that does not depend on mood. The discipline that works when motivation disappears. The discipline that builds strength quietly day after day. And if you stay with this message until the end, you will understand a mindset that separates the average from the unstoppable. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Motivation is a weak foundation. Most people wait to feel motivated before they begin working. They believe motivation is the fuel required to start difficult tasks. When they feel inspired, energized, or excited, they act. When those feelings disappear, they stop. This approach feels natural, but it is unreliable. Motivation is emotional, and emotions are temporary. They change depending on sleep, environment, stress, and countless other factors. If your productivity depends on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. Some days you will feel unstoppable. Other days you will feel nothing. And on those days work stops. Action first, feeling later. This is the principle that separates disciplined individuals from those who rely on motivation. Discipline does not wait for the right emotional state. It acts regardless of how you feel. Instead of asking, "Do I feel like doing this today?" disciplined people ask a different question. Does this need to be done? If the answer is yes, the action begins immediately. Action first, feeling later. Motivation feels powerful because it creates temporary energy. When people feel inspired, tasks appear easier. Focus increases. Work flows naturally. But this energy rarely lasts. Motivation rises and falls like a wave. And when it disappears, most people lose their momentum. This creates a cycle. They work intensely for short periods. Then they stop completely. Then they wait for motivation to return. Progress becomes unpredictable. Action first, feeling later. Discipline breaks this cycle. Discipline treats work as a commitment rather than an emotional response. It removes the question of whether you feel ready. The task exists. The task must be completed. So the task begins. Emotion becomes irrelevant. Action first, feeling later. Another problem with motivation is that it encourages procrastination. When people believe they need motivation to begin, they unconsciously wait for the perfect mood. They delay action until they feel energized or inspired. But that moment rarely arrives on command. So the task remains unfinished. Days pass. Weeks pass. Opportunities disappear. All because action depended on a temporary emotion. Action first, feeling later. Discipline eliminates this delay. Instead of waiting for emotional readiness, disciplined individuals rely on structure. They create schedules, routines, and systems that guide their behavior. When the time arrives to work, they work. No debate. No negotiation. Just action. Action first, feeling later. Another important truth is that motivation often appears after action begins. Many people assume they must feel motivated before starting. But in reality, motivation frequently follows effort. Once you begin working, your mind adjusts. Focus increases. Progress becomes visible. And that progress creates energy. This means action produces motivation, not the other way around. Action first, feeling later. Think about how this works in practice. When you face a difficult task, your mind may resist starting. It searches for distractions, excuses, or reasons to delay. But if you begin anyway, even with minimal effort, momentum starts to build. 5 minutes becomes 15. 15 becomes an hour. and suddenly the task is progressing. The hardest part was simply starting. Action first, feeling later. This is why discipline must replace motivation as the primary driver of action. Motivation can assist you occasionally, but it cannot sustain long-term progress. Discipline can, because discipline is not emotional. It is behavioral. It is the decision to act regardless of mood. Action first, feeling later. Another advantage of discipline is predictability. When you rely on motivation, your productivity fluctuates. Some days you accomplish a lot. Other days you accomplish nothing. But when discipline guides your behavior, your output becomes consistent. You work on good days. You work on difficult days. You work when energy is high and when energy is low. Because the task matters more than your emotional state. Action first, feeling later. Consistency creates progress. Progress builds confidence. And confidence strengthens discipline. This cycle becomes powerful over time. Because each disciplined action reinforces the belief that you are capable of following through. And that belief becomes part of your identity. Action first, feeling later. Another important aspect of discipline is responsibility. When motivation is your driver, you often blame external conditions for inactivity. You blame fatigue. You blame lack of inspiration. You blame stress or distractions. But discipline removes those excuses. You take responsibility for your behavior, regardless of circumstances, because action is your choice. Action first, feeling later. This mindset also reduces emotional dependency. When people depend on motivation, they become controlled by their feelings. If they feel discouraged, they stop working. But disciplined individuals do not depend on emotional approval. They work because the work must be done. This independence strengthens mental toughness, because your behavior is not controlled by temporary feelings. Action first, feeling later. Over time, discipline becomes a habit. You stop questioning whether you should act. You simply act. The routine becomes automatic. And automation reduces mental resistance. What once felt difficult becomes normal, because repetition changes behavior. Action first, feeling later. This transformation creates long-term advantage. While others wait for motivation, you are already moving forward. While others hesitate, you are executing. While others depend on emotional energy, you depend on discipline. And discipline produces steady progress. Action first, feeling later. Eventually, the results become visible. Projects get completed. Skills improve. Opportunities expand. And people begin asking how you maintain such consistency. The answer is simple. You stopped relying on motivation. You replaced it with discipline. Action first, feeling later. This is the foundation of doing what you hate. Not forcing yourself through constant struggle, but removing the expectation that you must feel inspired before acting. Because feelings are temporary. But disciplined behavior creates lasting results. So whenever you face a task you do not want to do, remember this rule. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for the perfect mood. Begin the action. Even if your energy is low. Even if your mind resists. Because once action begins, momentum follows. And momentum creates progress. So commit to the principle that drives disciplined individuals forward. Action first, feeling later. Chapter 2. Stop negotiating with your mind. Your mind is constantly searching for comfort. It wants the easier option, the shorter path, the activity that requires the least resistance. When a difficult task appears, your mind immediately begins a negotiation process. Maybe I should start later. Maybe I deserve a break first. Maybe today isn't the right day. These thoughts feel reasonable. They feel logical. But they are rarely about logic. They are about avoiding discomfort. Decision made. Work begins. This is the principle that ends negotiation. Discipline begins when the discussion with your mind stops. The moment a decision is made, action follows. No debate. No reconsideration. No emotional evaluation. Just execution. Decision made. Work begins. Negotiation is one of the most dangerous habits when it comes to discipline. Every time you allow your mind to debate whether something should be done, you open the door for delay. The mind is skilled at creating convincing excuses. It can justify almost any form of avoidance. It will suggest that rest is necessary, that the timing is wrong, that the conditions are not ideal. These arguments feel intelligent because your mind is very good at defending comfort. But comfort rarely produces progress. Decision made. Work begins. Disciplined individuals understand something important. The mind cannot be negotiated with when it seeks comfort. If you give it space to argue, it will win most of the time. Because comfort is appealing. Comfort feels safe. Comfort feels justified. But discipline requires the opposite approach. Instead of negotiating, disciplined individuals create rules. And rules remove debate. Decision made. Work begins. When a rule exists, the mind no longer decides. The behavior becomes automatic. For example, if your rule is that you work at a specific time each day, you do not ask yourself whether you feel like working. The rule has already answered that question. The time arrives. Work begins. This removes emotional decision-making. Decision made. Work begins. Rules simplify behavior. They eliminate unnecessary thinking. And they reduce the mental energy spent on negotiation. Without rules, every task becomes a debate. Should I start now? Should I wait? Should I do something easier instead? These questions drain focus. But when rules exist, the questions disappear. The action becomes clear. Decision made. Work begins. Another important aspect of eliminating negotiation is speed. When people hesitate, their mind begins searching for alternatives. The longer the delay between decision and action, the stronger the resistance becomes. But when action follows immediately after the decision, resistance has no time to grow. The mind does not have time to argue. Execution begins before hesitation appears. Decision made. Work begins. This is why many disciplined individuals rely on immediate action. Once they decide to start, they move quickly. They open the document. They begin the task. They take the first step. Speed removes negotiation. Decision made. Work begins. Another problem with negotiation is that it weakens identity. Every time you allow your mind to avoid a task, you reinforce the belief that discomfort controls your behavior. But when you follow through on your decisions consistently, you strengthen your identity as someone who executes. Identity is shaped by repeated behavior. Each disciplined action reinforces the belief that you are someone who does what must be done. Decision made. Work begins. This shift in identity is powerful. Because once you see yourself as a disciplined individual, your behavior aligns with that belief. You stop questioning your actions. You simply follow through. And this consistency creates momentum. Decision made. Work begins. Another advantage of ending negotiation is reduced stress. Many people experience anxiety not because tasks are difficult, but because they delay starting them. The unfinished task remains in their mind. It creates pressure. It occupies mental space. But when you begin working immediately, that pressure disappears. Action replaces worry. Progress replaces hesitation. Decision made. Work begins. To train this mindset, practice making clear decisions. Define what must be done. Set the time. Then follow through without discussion. If resistance appears, acknowledge it but ignore it. Your mind may complain. It may search for excuses. But excuses lose power when they are not entertained. Decision made. Work begins. Another useful technique is narrowing your focus to the first step. Often the mind resists tasks because it imagines the entire effort required. But if you focus only on starting, the resistance decreases. Open the file. Write the first sentence. Complete the first small action. Once momentum begins, the task becomes easier. Decision made. Work begins. Over time, this approach transforms how you respond to difficult work. Instead of debating with your mind, you recognize the negotiation pattern immediately. You see the excuses forming. But instead of engaging with them, you act. Because you know that action eliminates resistance. Decision made. Work begins. Eventually, this behavior becomes automatic. You stop asking whether you feel ready. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop negotiating with comfort. You make a decision, and then you execute. This level of discipline creates reliability, because your behavior becomes predictable. When work must be done, you do it. Without delay, without debate. Decision made. Work begins. This mindset gives you an enormous advantage. While others waste time negotiating with their minds, you are already moving forward. While others search for comfort, you are building progress. And over time, that difference becomes visible, because consistent action produces results. So the next time your mind begins offering excuses, recognize what is happening. It is not logic. It is negotiation. And negotiation leads to delay. End the discussion. Make the decision. Then begin. Because discipline starts the moment negotiation ends. And the rule that keeps you moving forward is simple. Decision made. Work begins. Chapter 3. Train yourself to start anyway. For most difficult tasks, the hardest part is not finishing. It is starting. Before you begin, the mind creates resistance. It imagines the effort required, the time it will take, the discomfort you may experience. The task appears larger than it actually is. This mental resistance creates hesitation. You delay. You look for easier activities. You convince yourself that starting later will be easier. But later rarely becomes easier. Later usually becomes never. Start before you're ready. This principle is the key to overcoming resistance. Waiting until you feel ready is a trap. Readiness is often an illusion created by the mind to delay discomfort. Discipline requires action before that feeling appears. You begin the task even when you feel uncertain, unmotivated, or tired. Because starting changes everything. Start before you're ready. The moment you begin, the mental barrier weakens. Before action, the task exists only in your imagination. Your mind exaggerates its difficulty because it cannot see the real process yet. But once you begin, the task becomes concrete. You focus on the work itself rather than the fear of it. And this shift reduces resistance. Start before you're ready. Momentum plays a powerful role in discipline. Momentum is the force that carries action forward once it begins. Just like a vehicle requires the most energy to move from complete stillness, your mind requires the most effort to move from inactivity to action. Once movement begins, continuing becomes easier. This is why the first step matters more than most people realize. It activates momentum. Start before you're ready. Many people believe they need confidence before starting something difficult. But confidence usually appears after action, not before it. Confidence grows when you see yourself making progress. Each completed step reinforces the belief that you are capable of continuing. Without action, confidence cannot develop. So waiting for confidence creates a cycle of delay. Action breaks that cycle. Start before you're ready. Another reason starting feels difficult is because the mind focuses on the entire task. If you imagine everything that must be done from beginning to end, the task feels overwhelming. Your brain interprets the workload as too large, so it resists beginning. But disciplined individuals focus differently. They narrow their attention to the first action, not the entire project, not the final result, just the first step. Start before you're ready. When you focus on the first step, the task becomes manageable. Write the first paragraph. Open the document. Make the first phone call. Complete the first small piece of work. This approach reduces mental resistance because the mind no longer sees an overwhelming challenge. It sees a single action. And single actions are easier to begin. Start before you're ready. Another important advantage of starting early is time. When people delay tasks, they create unnecessary pressure. Deadlines approach faster. Stress increases. Quality decreases. But when you start early, even with a small amount of progress, you give yourself time to improve your work. Early action reduces pressure later. Start before you're ready. Starting also exposes reality. Before beginning, your mind often imagines worst-case scenarios. You assume the task will be extremely difficult. But once you start, you realize that the difficulty is often exaggerated. The work becomes clearer. The steps become visible. And your confidence grows. This clarity can only appear through action. Start before you're ready. To train this habit, reduce the size of the starting point. Do not commit to finishing the entire task immediately. Commit to beginning. Tell yourself that you will work for 5 minutes. Just 5. Once those 5 minutes begin, something interesting happens. The resistance disappears. Your focus increases. And the work often continues far beyond those 5 minutes. Because momentum has taken over. Start before you're ready. Another useful strategy is removing distractions before starting. The mind looks for escape routes when tasks feel uncomfortable. Notifications, social media, and other distractions become attractive alternatives. By removing these options beforehand, you make starting easier. Because there are fewer ways to avoid the work. Start before you're ready. Consistency strengthens this habit. Every time you begin work without waiting for motivation, you reinforce a new pattern. Your brain learns that hesitation is unnecessary. Action becomes automatic. Over time, the starting process becomes faster and easier. Start before you're ready. Eventually, starting becomes your default behavior. When a task appears, you do not debate whether you should begin. You begin immediately. This habit gives you an enormous advantage. While others hesitate and delay, you are already moving forward. And that early movement creates progress. Start before you're ready. Progress builds confidence. Confidence builds discipline. And discipline builds results. But everything begins with the first action. No momentum exists until movement begins. No progress exists until effort begins. No results exist until action begins. Start before you're ready. This mindset transforms how you approach difficult work. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You stop searching for motivation. You stop hoping that the task will feel easier tomorrow. Instead, you begin. Immediately. Because you understand something important. The mind resists starting. But it rarely resists continuing. So train yourself to begin quickly. Ignore hesitation. Take the first step. Then allow momentum to carry you forward. Because success in difficult work does not begin with confidence or motivation. It begins with action. And the rule that keeps you moving is simple. Start before you're ready. Chapter 4. Embrace the work you avoid. Every person has tasks they naturally avoid. These tasks usually share a few characteristics. They are uncomfortable, demanding, uncertain, or mentally exhausting. They require effort without immediate reward. They challenge your patience, your focus, or your confidence. Because of this discomfort, the mind searches for alternatives. You choose easier work. You organize instead of executing. You stay busy instead of being productive. And over time, the most important tasks remain unfinished. The resistance shows the path. This principle reveals something important about growth. The tasks you avoid are often the ones that create the greatest progress. They require effort precisely because they matter. They challenge you precisely because they lead to improvement. Avoidance feels safe, but it keeps you exactly where you are. The resistance shows the path. Your mind naturally moves toward comfort. Comfort requires little effort. Comfort protects your energy. Comfort feels pleasant. But comfort rarely produces growth. Growth happens when you engage with difficulty. When you face challenges instead of avoiding them. When you move toward the work that feels uncomfortable. The resistance shows the path. Avoidance creates a hidden trap. When you avoid difficult work, you feel temporary relief. Your mind relaxes because the discomfort disappears. But that relief is short-lived. The task still exists. The responsibility still remains. And now you must face it later, often with more pressure. Avoidance delays discomfort. It never eliminates it. The resistance shows the path. Disciplined individuals understand this pattern. Instead of running from difficult tasks, they move toward them. They recognize resistance as a signal. If a task creates strong resistance, it is probably important. It is probably valuable. It is probably worth doing. So instead of avoiding it, they prioritize it. The resistance shows the path. This approach creates a powerful advantage. Most people follow the path of least resistance. They complete easy tasks first. They delay difficult work until later. But later often becomes never. Disciplined individuals reverse this pattern. They face the hardest task first. They remove the largest obstacle early. And once that obstacle is gone, everything else becomes easier. The resistance shows the path. Another benefit of confronting difficult tasks is confidence. When you avoid challenges, your mind begins to doubt your ability to handle them. But when you face those challenges directly, you prove something to yourself. You prove that discomfort does not control you. You prove that you can handle difficult work. And that proof builds confidence. The resistance shows the path. Confidence grows through action, not through comfort. Each time you complete a task you wanted to avoid, your mental strength increases. You become more willing to face the next challenge. And over time, difficult work feels less intimidating. The resistance shows the path. Another important advantage is clarity. When you avoid tasks, they remain in your mind as unfinished problems. They create mental noise. You think about them repeatedly. You worry about when you will finally address them. This constant background stress drains energy. But when you confront the task directly, the stress disappears. Action replaces anxiety. The resistance shows the path. This mindset also improves productivity. Easy tasks often create the illusion of progress. You answer emails. You organize files. You complete minor responsibilities. These activities feel productive, but they rarely create major results. The tasks that produce real progress are usually the ones that require deep focus and sustained effort. Those are the tasks people avoid. The resistance shows the path. To train yourself to embrace difficult work, start by identifying the tasks you resist most. Ask yourself, which task am I avoiding right now? Which task would create the biggest improvement if completed? Which task feels uncomfortable but necessary? These questions reveal the work that truly matters. The resistance shows the path. Once you identify that task, make it your priority. Do it first, before distractions appear, before easier tasks tempt you. Completing it early in the day removes the largest barrier, and the rest of your work becomes easier. The resistance shows the path. Another useful technique is reframing discomfort. Instead of seeing discomfort as a negative signal, view it as evidence of growth. Discomfort means you are stretching your abilities. It means you are doing something meaningful. It means progress is possible. This shift in perspective transforms resistance into motivation. The resistance shows the path. Consistency strengthens this habit. Each time you choose the difficult task over the easy one, you reinforce discipline. Your mind learns that discomfort does not control your actions. You act according to your priorities, not according to your feelings. The resistance shows the path. Over time, this approach becomes part of your identity. You become someone who faces challenges directly. Someone who chooses progress over comfort. Someone who recognizes that the most valuable work is often the work you want to avoid. This identity creates powerful results. Because while others delay difficult tasks, you are completing them. While others stay comfortable, you are growing. The resistance shows the path. Eventually, resistance becomes useful. Instead of fearing it, you follow it. If a task creates discomfort, you move toward it, because you understand that growth hides behind resistance. The work you avoid often leads to the greatest rewards. The effort you resist often produces the greatest progress. And the challenges you face today become the strengths you rely on tomorrow. So whenever you feel resistance toward a task, pause for a moment. Ask yourself why. If the answer is discomfort or difficulty, you may have discovered the exact work that matters most. Move toward it, complete it, and let it strengthen your discipline. Because progress rarely appears on the path of comfort. It appears on the path of resistance. And the rule that reveals that path is simple. The resistance shows the path. Chapter 5. Make discipline your default behavior. Many people treat discipline as an occasional effort. They apply it when they feel determined, when deadlines approach, or when motivation appears. During these moments, they push themselves to work harder, focus longer, and ignore distractions. But once the pressure disappears, their behavior returns to comfort. This pattern creates inconsistency. Discipline appears only during moments of urgency. And progress becomes unpredictable. This is what I do. This is the mindset that transforms discipline from effort into identity. Discipline must become a default behavior, not a temporary strategy. It should not depend on mood, environment, or motivation. It should operate automatically, just like brushing your teeth or waking up at a certain time. This is what I do. When discipline becomes automatic, you stop debating whether to act. You stop waiting for emotional approval. You stop negotiating with comfort. The task appears. You begin. Because disciplined behavior has become part of your routine. This is what I do. Habits make this possible. Habits reduce the need for willpower. When you perform an action repeatedly in the same context, your brain learns the pattern. Over time, the action becomes automatic. You no longer need to think about starting. Your routine triggers the behavior. This process saves mental energy. This is what I do. Without habits, discipline requires constant effort. Every task becomes a decision. Should I work now? Should I wait? Should I do something easier instead? These decisions create mental fatigue. And mental fatigue weakens discipline. But habits remove these questions. The behavior simply occurs. This is what I do. Another advantage of automatic discipline is consistency. When behavior depends on emotion, productivity fluctuates. Some days you feel strong. Other days you feel tired or distracted. But habits operate regardless of emotional state. You work when you feel energetic. You work when you feel tired. Because the routine continues. This is what I do. Consistency creates progress. Small actions repeated daily accumulate into powerful results. One focused hour every day becomes hundreds of hours over a year. One disciplined choice each day becomes a powerful pattern. These small actions compound over time. And that compounding effect creates extraordinary progress. This is what I do. Another benefit of automatic discipline is reduced stress. When tasks become routine, they no longer feel overwhelming. You do not delay them. You do not overthink them. You simply complete them as part of your day. This removes the anxiety that comes from procrastination. Action replaces worry. This is what I do. To build disciplined habits, start with structure. Define when you will work. Define where you will work. Define what you will do during that time. Clear structure eliminates uncertainty. When the scheduled moment arrives, the task begins. Because the plan has already been decided. This is what I do. Environment also plays a role. Your surroundings influence your behavior. If your environment contains constant distractions, discipline becomes harder. But if your environment supports focus, disciplined behavior becomes easier. Remove unnecessary distractions. Prepare your workspace. Create conditions that encourage productivity. This is what I do. Another important element is repetition. Habits are formed through repeated action. The more often you perform a behavior, the more automatic it becomes. At first, discipline requires effort. But over time, the effort decreases. The routine takes over. This is what I do. This transition from effort to routine is powerful. Once discipline becomes habitual, resistance decreases dramatically. You no longer struggle to start tasks. You simply follow your routine. And this reliability improves performance. This is what I do. Another key advantage is identity. When disciplined actions become consistent, your self-image changes. You stop seeing yourself as someone who occasionally works hard. You begin seeing yourself as someone who always follows through. This identity strengthens discipline further. Because people naturally act in ways that align with how they see themselves. This is what I do. For example, someone who sees themselves as disciplined will complete tasks even when they feel tired. Because their identity demands it. They do not question their behavior. They simply act. This is what I do. This identity also builds confidence. Each completed task reinforces the belief that you are capable of consistent effort. Confidence grows through evidence. And disciplined behavior provides that evidence daily. This is what I do. Over time, this mindset becomes powerful. You become reliable. You become focused. You become someone who produces results consistently. Not through occasional bursts of effort, but through steady daily action. This is what I do. While others rely on motivation, you rely on routine. While others wait for inspiration, you follow your schedule. While others struggle to begin, you are already working. And this difference creates long-term advantage. This is what I do. Eventually, discipline feels natural. You no longer describe your actions as difficult. They simply become part of your day. You wake up and execute your routine. You complete your tasks. You move forward steadily. This is what I do. This is the real power of discipline. Not forcing yourself endlessly, but creating systems that make disciplined behavior automatic. Once that system exists, progress becomes inevitable. Because you show up every day. You perform the work. You continue moving forward. And over time, that steady movement creates results that motivation alone could never produce. So train your habits carefully. Repeat disciplined actions daily. Allow routine to replace hesitation. Because when discipline becomes your default behavior, success is no longer a question of motivation. It becomes a natural outcome of consistency. And the mindset that sustains this behavior is simple. This is what I do. Chapter 6. Build tolerance for discomfort. Discomfort is unavoidable when pursuing meaningful progress. Any task that improves your skills, strengthens your discipline, or moves you toward a difficult goal will eventually become uncomfortable. It may require long periods of concentration. It may demand patience. It may challenge your limits or test your persistence. Because of this, the mind naturally tries to escape. It searches for easier alternatives. It looks for distractions. It tells you that stopping now would feel better. This reaction is normal. But it is also the reason many people stop progressing. Discomfort is the training ground. Growth happens in the space where comfort ends. When you remain inside your comfort zone, your abilities remain unchanged. You repeat the same behaviors, face the same challenges, and achieve the same results. But when you enter discomfort and stay there long enough to adapt, your capabilities expand. Discomfort is not a barrier. It is the environment where improvement occurs. Discomfort is the training ground. Many people misunderstand discipline because they expect work to eventually feel easy. They believe that once they build enough skill or experience, the discomfort will disappear. But meaningful work rarely becomes effortless. Instead, your tolerance for discomfort increases. You become stronger. What once felt difficult becomes manageable, and you are able to handle greater challenges. Discomfort is the training ground. Tolerance for discomfort works like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. At first, working through difficulty may feel exhausting. Your focus may fade quickly. Your mind may search constantly for relief. But each time you continue working despite that discomfort, you expand your capacity. Your mind learns that discomfort is not dangerous. It is simply part of the process. Discomfort is the training ground. Another reason discomfort matters is because it reveals effort. Easy tasks rarely create progress. They do not challenge your abilities. They do not push your limits. But difficult tasks require sustained focus and persistence. These qualities produce improvement. When something feels difficult, it often means you are working at the edge of your current ability. And that edge is where growth happens. Discomfort is the training ground. Avoiding discomfort prevents this growth. When you consistently choose easy tasks, your abilities remain stagnant. You stay in familiar territory. Your mind never adapts to greater demands. But when you deliberately face uncomfortable work, you strengthen your capacity to handle more. Over time, what once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Discomfort is the training ground. Another important benefit of discomfort is mental toughness. Mental toughness is the ability to remain focused and productive even when conditions are difficult. This quality cannot be developed in comfortable situations. It requires challenge. It requires persistence. It requires learning to continue even when you would prefer to stop. Each time you endure discomfort, your mental strength increases. Discomfort is the training ground. This strength becomes valuable in many areas of life. Difficult projects, unexpected problems, long-term goals, all require sustained effort. If you have trained yourself to handle discomfort, these situations become manageable. But if you avoid discomfort regularly, even small challenges can feel overwhelming. Discomfort is the training ground. To build tolerance for discomfort, you must change how you interpret it. Instead of viewing discomfort as a warning to stop, see it as a signal that you are working at the right level. Discomfort means you are stretching your ability. Discomfort means progress is possible. Discomfort means the work matters. This perspective transforms how you respond. Discomfort is the training ground. Another useful approach is gradual exposure. Do not attempt to handle extreme difficulty immediately. Start with manageable challenges. Work through them consistently. As your tolerance increases, increase the difficulty. This process builds strength over time. Just like physical training builds muscle through repeated effort. Discomfort is the training ground. Focus also plays a role. When discomfort appears, the mind often exaggerates how difficult the situation feels. It begins thinking about how long the task will last or how exhausting it might become. These thoughts amplify resistance. But when you focus only on the current step, discomfort becomes easier to manage. One step, one action, one moment at a time. Discomfort is the training ground. Another powerful technique is setting clear time boundaries. For example, commit to working through discomfort for a fixed period. 30 minutes, 1 hour. During that time you do not stop. When the time ends, you reassess. This approach builds discipline while preventing overwhelm. Discomfort is the training ground. Consistency strengthens this ability. Each time you endure discomfort, you teach your mind that stopping is not the default response. You continue. You adapt. You improve. Over time, your tolerance increases dramatically. What once felt impossible becomes routine. Discomfort is the training ground. Eventually, your relationship with discomfort changes. Instead of fearing it, you recognize it as part of progress. You stop avoiding difficult work. You begin seeking challenges that push your limits. Because you understand that discomfort signals growth. Discomfort is the training ground. This mindset creates a powerful advantage. While others retreat from difficulty, you move toward it. While others search for easier paths, you develop strength. While others stop when discomfort appears, you continue. And that persistence leads to results. Because success often belongs to those who can endure what others avoid. Discomfort is the training ground. Over time, the tasks that once felt unbearable become manageable. Your focus improves. Your endurance increases. Your confidence grows. Not because the work became easier, but because you became stronger. Discomfort is the training ground. This is the essence of disciplined progress. Not avoiding difficulty, but learning to work through it. Every uncomfortable moment becomes a form of training. Every difficult task becomes an opportunity to grow. And every time you continue despite discomfort, you strengthen your ability to achieve long-term goals. So when discomfort appears, do not retreat. Do not interpret it as a signal to stop. Recognize it for what it truly is. A training ground. A place where discipline is built. A place where strength develops. And remember the rule that transforms discomfort into progress. Discomfort is the training ground. Chapter 7. Remove emotional decision-making. One of the biggest obstacles to discipline is emotional decision-making. Most people decide what to do based on how they feel in the moment. If they feel energized, they work. If they feel tired, they delay. If they feel motivated, they take action. If they feel discouraged, they stop. This approach creates inconsistency. Because emotions change constantly. One day you feel confident and productive. The next day you feel distracted and unfocused. If your actions depend on those feelings, your progress will always be unstable. Follow the system. This principle replaces emotional decision-making with structure. Instead of asking how you feel, you follow a predetermined system. The system decides when you work. The system decides what you work on. The system decides how long you continue. Emotion becomes irrelevant. Follow the system. Systems are powerful because they remove uncertainty. Without a system, every task requires a decision. Should I start now? Should I wait? Should I work longer? These questions invite emotional influence. But when a system exists, the decisions are already made. You simply follow the process. Follow the system. Consider the difference between a person who relies on emotion and a person who relies on a system. The emotional approach looks like this. Work when you feel motivated. Stop when you feel tired. Begin tasks when inspiration appears. This creates unpredictable behavior. Some days are productive. Other days are wasted. But the system-based approach works differently. Work begins at a scheduled time. Tasks are defined in advance. Work continues for a predetermined duration. Emotion does not control the process. Follow the system. This consistency creates stability. When your behavior follows a system, you eliminate many of the internal debates that slow people down. You do not ask yourself whether you feel ready. You simply begin. You do not question whether the work is comfortable. You complete it because it is part of the system. Follow the system. Another advantage of systems is reduced mental fatigue. Every decision consumes mental energy. If you must decide constantly when to work, what to work on, and whether to continue, your mind becomes exhausted. Eventually, that exhaustion leads to procrastination. But systems remove many of these decisions. The process becomes automatic. And automatic behavior conserves mental energy. Follow the system. Systems also create momentum. When actions are repeated consistently, progress accumulates. Small daily efforts compound into significant results. But this compounding effect only occurs when actions are consistent. Emotion rarely produces consistency. Systems do. Follow the system. Another benefit of removing emotional decisions is improved focus. When you stop evaluating how you feel about each task, your attention shifts toward execution. Instead of analyzing your mood, you concentrate on the work itself. This shift increases productivity, because energy that once fueled hesitation now fuels progress. Follow the system. To build an effective system, start with clear routines. Define the times you will work. Define the tasks you will complete. Define the duration of your work sessions. Clarity removes ambiguity. When expectations are clear, execution becomes easier. Follow the system. Another important part of a system is preparation. Prepare your workspace before your work session begins. Remove distractions. Gather the materials you need. This preparation eliminates excuses and makes starting easier. Follow the system. Tracking progress can also strengthen your system. When you record completed work, you create visible evidence of discipline. Each completed session becomes proof of consistency. And that proof reinforces your commitment to the system. Follow the system. Another powerful aspect of systems is accountability. When your actions follow a defined structure, it becomes easier to recognize when you deviate. Without structure, procrastination can feel invisible. But with a system in place, interruptions become obvious. You can quickly return to the process. Follow the system. Over time, systems transform behavior. What once required effort becomes routine. You stop questioning whether you should work. You follow the schedule. You complete the tasks. And progress becomes predictable. Follow the system. This mindset also strengthens discipline. Because discipline is not just about forcing yourself to act. It is about creating structures that make action easier. When your system is strong, discipline requires less effort. The routine carries you forward. Follow the system. Another benefit is emotional stability. When outcomes depend on consistent action rather than temporary motivation, you feel less pressure. You focus on completing the process rather than worrying about results. This reduces stress, because you trust the system to produce progress over time. Follow the system. Eventually, emotional decision-making loses its influence. You no longer ask whether you feel like working. You simply follow the process. The system becomes stronger than the emotion. And that strength produces reliable performance. Follow the system. This reliability creates a powerful advantage. While others wait for the right mood, you continue working. While others struggle with inconsistency, you maintain steady progress. And over time, that consistency leads to results that emotional effort cannot match. Follow the system. This is the essence of disciplined action. Not forcing yourself endlessly through willpower, but designing a structure that removes emotional interference. When the system is clear, the path becomes simple. You follow the routine. You complete the tasks. You repeat the process daily. And progress becomes inevitable. So remove emotional decision-making from your work. Replace it with structure. Replace it with routine. Replace it with a system that guides your behavior regardless of how you feel. Because feelings are temporary, but systems create lasting results. And the rule that keeps discipline stable is simple. Follow the system. Chapter 8. Become consistent when no one is watching. Discipline is easiest when people are watching. When there is an audience, expectations increase. When others are observing your work, you naturally become more careful, more focused, and more motivated to perform well. External pressure creates accountability. You want to appear capable. You want to meet expectations. You want to avoid disappointment. Because of this, many people work harder when they know they are being evaluated. But real discipline does not depend on an audience. Real discipline appears when no one is watching. Do the work unseen. This is the moment where character is revealed. When there is no external pressure, no supervision, and no immediate recognition, your true habits appear. You have two options. You can choose comfort, or you can choose discipline. Do the work unseen. Many people underestimate the power of unseen work. They focus only on visible results. The final performance, the finished project, the public success. But these visible outcomes are only the surface. The real progress happens quietly. In the hours of work that no one sees. In the repetitions that receive no recognition. In the effort that happens long before results appear. Do the work unseen. This hidden work is where mastery develops. When there is no audience, your behavior depends entirely on internal standards. You are not performing for recognition. You are not working to impress anyone. You are simply honoring your commitment to improvement. This kind of discipline builds real strength. Because it is self-directed. Do the work unseen. External motivation can be powerful, but it is unreliable. Praise fades. Attention shifts. Recognition eventually disappears. If your effort depends on those factors, your discipline will weaken when they are gone. But internal discipline remains stable. You work because the work matters, not because someone is watching. Do the work unseen. Another advantage of unseen work is freedom. When you are not focused on external approval, you can concentrate entirely on improvement. You are not worried about how your work appears to others. You are focused on making it better. This mindset encourages experimentation. It encourages learning. It encourages deeper focus. Do the work unseen. Consistency becomes the key. Working hard occasionally when others are watching is easy. But working steadily every day without recognition requires discipline. It requires a strong internal standard. You must decide that your effort matters even when no one notices. Do the work unseen. This standard builds character. Character is the pattern of choices you make when external pressure disappears. If your character is disciplined, your behavior remains consistent regardless of circumstances. You show up. You complete your work. You continue improving, even when no one is there to acknowledge it. Do the work unseen. Another benefit of unseen work is reduced distraction. When people focus too much on recognition, their attention shifts away from the process. They begin thinking about how their work will be perceived rather than how it can improve. This mindset divides attention. But when you focus on quiet progress, your attention remains on the work itself. And that focus improves quality. Do the work unseen. Silent effort also compounds over time. Each day of unseen work adds another layer of progress. Skills improve. Knowledge expands. Confidence grows. These improvements accumulate quietly until they eventually become visible. And when the results appear, others often describe them as sudden success. But the truth is different. The success was built slowly through unseen effort. Do the work unseen. To develop this mindset, redefine what success means. Do not measure success only by recognition. Measure it by consistency. Did you complete your work today? Did you follow your routine? Did you honor your commitments? These questions keep your focus on disciplined action. Do the work unseen. Another helpful strategy is creating personal accountability. Instead of relying on external supervision, track your own progress. Maintain a record of your work sessions. Review your consistency regularly. This self-monitoring reinforces discipline, because you remain aware of your behavior. Do the work unseen. Over time, this habit becomes powerful. You no longer need external pressure to maintain effort. Your internal standards guide you. Your routine supports you. Your discipline remains stable. Do the work unseen. This independence creates long-term advantage. While others depend on external motivation, you rely on internal commitment. While others slow down when attention fades, you continue working. And this steady effort produces extraordinary results. Because progress accumulates quietly. Do the work unseen. Eventually, the work that was once invisible becomes visible. Your skills improve dramatically. Your results become noticeable. Others begin to see the outcomes of your discipline. But they often do not see the years of quiet effort that created those outcomes. They only see the final moment. Do the work unseen. This is the reality of disciplined progress. The most important work happens before recognition arrives. The most meaningful growth happens before anyone notices. And the strongest individuals are those who remain consistent during that unseen phase. Do the work unseen. This mindset transforms how you approach your work. You stop seeking validation. You stop waiting for attention. You focus on improvement. You focus on consistency. You focus on the quiet effort that builds long-term success. Because you understand something important. Recognition may come later. Results may appear gradually. But the work must continue regardless. So train yourself to remain disciplined even when there is no audience. Show up for your work. Complete your routine. Maintain your standards. Because the work you do in silence often produces the loudest results later. And the rule that keeps you moving forward is simple. Do the work unseen. Chapter 9. Build identity through repeated action. Identity is not created through words. It is not formed through intention or through what you hope to become. Identity is built through repeated action. What you consistently do becomes the foundation of who you are. Every action you repeat reinforces a pattern. Every pattern strengthens a belief. And every belief shapes your identity. This is who I am. Many people try to change their lives by changing their goals. They set ambitious targets. They imagine a better future. They create plans for what they want to achieve. But goals alone do not change behavior. Behavior changes identity. And identity determines long-term results. This is who I am. When you perform disciplined actions repeatedly, you begin to see yourself differently. Each time you complete a task you once avoided, you reinforce the belief that you are capable of discipline. Each time you follow through on your commitments, you strengthen that identity. Over time, discipline stops feeling like effort. It becomes part of who you are. This is who I am. The opposite is also true. When people repeatedly avoid difficult tasks, they reinforce a different identity. They begin to see themselves as inconsistent, unreliable, or easily distracted. These beliefs become self-fulfilling, because behavior tends to align with identity. If you believe you lack discipline, you act accordingly. This is who I am. This is why small actions matter. People often underestimate the impact of daily habits. They believe that only large achievements shape identity. But identity grows through repetition. A single disciplined action may seem insignificant. But when that action is repeated hundreds of times, it becomes a defining trait. This is who I am. Consider how habits shape perception. If you write every day, you begin to see yourself as a writer. If you train consistently, you begin to see yourself as an athlete. If you study regularly, you begin to see yourself as a disciplined learner. Your identity changes because your behavior supports it. This is who I am. This transformation creates powerful momentum. When your identity shifts, discipline becomes easier. You no longer need constant motivation. You simply act according to who you believe you are. A disciplined person works even when they feel tired. Because that is what disciplined people do. This is who I am. This process also builds confidence. Confidence does not come from positive thinking alone. It comes from evidence. Each disciplined action becomes evidence that you are capable of consistency. Over time, this evidence accumulates, and your belief in yourself strengthens. This is who I am. Another important aspect of identity is integrity. Integrity means your actions align with your standards. When you consistently follow through on your commitments, your internal trust grows. You begin to rely on yourself. You know that when you decide to do something, you will complete it. This trust becomes a powerful foundation for discipline. This is who I am. Identity also influences how others perceive you. When people observe consistent behavior, they begin to associate certain traits with you. Reliability, focus, persistence. These traits shape your reputation. And reputation often creates opportunities. This is who I am. But the most important influence of identity is internal. Your self-perception determines how you approach challenges. If you see yourself as someone who quits easily, you will likely stop when work becomes difficult. But if you see yourself as someone who persists, you will continue even when discomfort appears. Your identity guides your response to difficulty. This is who I am. To build a disciplined identity, start with small commitments. Choose actions that represent the person you want to become. Complete them consistently. Do not focus on perfection. Focus on repetition. Each completed action strengthens your identity. This is who I am. Another useful strategy is focusing on process rather than outcomes. If you focus only on results, you may become discouraged when progress is slow. But if you focus on the process, showing up, doing the work, repeating the habit, you reinforce the behaviors that shape identity. Results eventually follow consistent behavior. This is who I am. Reflection can also strengthen identity. Periodically review your actions. Notice the habits you have maintained. Recognize the progress you have made. This reflection reinforces your self-image as someone who follows through. This is who I am. Another important principle is patience. Identity does not change overnight. It evolves gradually through repetition. Some days will feel easy. Other days will feel difficult. But consistency over time creates transformation. This is who I am. Eventually, disciplined behavior becomes natural. You stop forcing yourself to act. You simply follow the patterns you have built. Your habits guide your actions. Your identity supports your discipline. And your results reflect that stability. This is who I am. This transformation creates lasting success. Because identity-driven behavior does not rely on temporary motivation. It relies on self-perception. You act consistently because that is who you believe you are. This is who I am. When discipline becomes part of your identity, the question of whether you will work disappears. You show up automatically. You follow through consistently. You continue progressing regardless of circumstances. This is who I am. This mindset gives you an advantage that cannot be easily replicated. While others rely on bursts of motivation, you rely on identity. While others struggle with inconsistency, you maintain steady effort. And over time, that steady effort produces powerful results. This is who I am. So build your identity carefully. Choose the actions that represent the person you want to become. Repeat those actions daily. Allow discipline to shape your behavior. Because the person you become tomorrow is determined by the actions you repeat today. And the belief that sustains this transformation is simple. This is who I am. Chapter 10. Win through relentless consistency. Success rarely comes from a single powerful effort. It does not come from one intense day of work or one burst of motivation. Real success is built through repetition, through actions performed consistently over long periods of time. Many people underestimate this principle. They believe extraordinary results require extraordinary moments. But in reality, extraordinary results usually come from ordinary actions repeated relentlessly. Daily effort. Long-term victory. Consistency is the force that turns small efforts into powerful outcomes. 1 hour of focused work may not seem significant. One disciplined decision may appear minor. But when those actions are repeated daily, they begin to accumulate. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Months become years. And the small actions compound into massive progress. Daily effort. Long-term victory. The challenge is that consistency rarely feels dramatic. It feels quiet. It feels repetitive. It often feels slow. Because progress is not always visible in the short term. When you work consistently, the improvements may appear small at first. You may not see immediate results. You may wonder whether your effort is truly making a difference. This is where most people stop. They mistake slow progress for lack of progress. But disciplined individuals understand the nature of compounding. Daily effort, long-term victory. Compounding means that small improvements build upon each other. Each day of effort strengthens the next day. Each repetition improves skill. Each completed task builds momentum. Over time, the results grow larger and larger. What once felt like slow progress becomes powerful acceleration. Daily effort, long-term victory. Inconsistent effort cannot produce this effect. When people work intensely for short periods and then stop, they break the chain of progress. Momentum disappears. Skills fade. Focus weakens. And they must begin again from a lower starting point. Consistency prevents this reset. It keeps progress moving forward. Daily effort, long-term victory. Another advantage of consistency is reliability. When your effort becomes predictable, your results become predictable. You know that progress will occur because the work continues. You do not depend on motivation. You do not depend on inspiration. You depend on repetition. And repetition creates stability. Daily effort, long-term victory. Consistency also builds mastery. Skills improve through practice. But practice must occur repeatedly over time. A single intense effort cannot replace consistent repetition. Each session strengthens your ability slightly. Over many sessions, those improvements become significant. Daily effort, long-term victory. This is how experts develop their abilities. They show up every day. They practice when progress feels slow. They continue when motivation fades. Their success is not built through occasional effort. It is built through relentless consistency. Daily effort, long-term victory. Another benefit of consistency is trust. When you work steadily over time, you develop trust in your own process. You know that if you continue working, results will eventually appear. This trust removes anxiety. You stop worrying about immediate outcomes. You focus on completing the work each day. Daily effort, long-term victory. Consistency also strengthens discipline. Every time you follow your routine, you reinforce the habit. Your behavior becomes more automatic. Your resistance decreases, and your focus improves. What once required effort becomes part of your identity. Daily effort, long-term victory. Another powerful aspect of consistency is its ability to create separation. Most people start strong but stop early. They work intensely for a short time, then lose interest or motivation. But disciplined individuals continue when others stop. They maintain their routine long after the initial excitement fades. And this persistence creates distance between them and everyone else. Daily effort, long-term victory. To develop relentless consistency, focus on maintaining the chain of action. Your primary goal is not perfection. Your goal is continuation. Show up each day. Complete the work. Repeat the process tomorrow. This simple approach keeps momentum alive. Daily effort, long-term victory. Another helpful strategy is reducing the size of your daily commitment. When tasks feel overwhelming, consistency becomes difficult. But when daily actions are manageable, repetition becomes easier. Even small progress is valuable when it happens consistently. Daily effort, long-term victory. Tracking your progress can also strengthen this habit. When you record your completed work sessions, you create a visual representation of your effort. Each mark becomes proof that you are continuing. This visibility reinforces discipline, because you see the chain of consistency growing. Daily effort, long-term victory. Patience is essential. Consistency works gradually. You may not notice dramatic improvement immediately, but if you continue the process long enough, the results become undeniable. Skills sharpen. Confidence increases. Opportunities expand. All because the work continued. Daily effort, long-term victory. Eventually, the accumulation of consistent effort creates a powerful outcome. What once required intense effort becomes routine. Your abilities surpass those who relied only on motivation. Your progress becomes visible. and others begin to notice the results. They may describe your success as talent or luck, but the truth is simpler. It was consistency, daily effort, long-term victory. This is the final principle of discipline. Not extraordinary bursts of effort, not moments of inspiration, but steady, relentless action. Showing up every day, doing the work even when progress feels slow, trusting that small efforts will compound into powerful results. Because time rewards those who remain consistent. And the rule that transforms daily effort into lasting success is simple. Daily effort, long-term victory. Most people are controlled by their emotions. If they feel motivated, they work. If they feel tired, they stop. If they feel uncertain, they delay. And because of this, their results are always inconsistent. But discipline changes everything. Discipline allows you to act when you don't feel like acting, to move when your mind asks you to stop, to work when comfort calls louder than ambition. This is the difference between temporary effort and long-term success, because the truth is simple. Winning is rarely exciting in the moment. It is repetitive. It is uncomfortable. It is often invisible. But those who master this discipline eventually build something powerful. A reputation for consistency. A mindset that does not break under pressure. A life shaped by action rather than emotion. And once you learn to do what you hate, no task can control you. No emotion can stop you. No obstacle can break your progress. The question now is simple. Will you wait until you feel motivated? Or will you build the discipline that wins regardless of how you feel?